Subscribe to Mantold for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. I walked into the room. There was cake, candles, and a man I'd never seen before, waiting for me to sign something. My wife sat next to him, in a white dress, hair lightly curled like she'd just come from a party. My mother-in-law smiled faintly, holding a glass of wine. My daughter kept her head down, hands clenched tightly in her lap. I didn't say a word. No one stood up to greet me. There was a cake on the table. A small candle flickered in the dim light. And written across the top, words I'll never forget. "Happy birthday, Spencer, to a fresh start." Before I could even ask what was going on, the man, probably a lawyer, slid a folder across the table. His voice was flat. "The divorce papers are ready. You just need to sign." I didn't sign. I didn't even get angry. I just looked at each of them and realized they all knew. I was the only one who didn't. Dana, my wife, blinked slowly, like she'd been rehearsing this moment, waiting for a reaction she'd already prepared for. My mother-in-law spoke first, her voice gentle. "We thought this way would be easier for you. Less stressful? Consider it a parting gift, on your birthday." That sentence, it played in my head 100 times after that night. I turned to my daughter. She didn't cry. She just glanced at me, like this was something she'd made peace with long ago. No one explained. No one said sorry. No one asked, "Are you okay?" I used to think, if my family ever fell apart, it'd be because of something serious. Cheating, lying, betrayal. But no, they just didn't need me anymore. I had spent nearly 20 years in that house, with a woman I loved, a child I trusted, thinking if I was kind, patient, responsible, that would be enough. But I was wrong. That night, I couldn't tell if I had just walked into a birthday party or the quiet funeral of my own marriage. My name is Spencer Miller. I'm 47. I'm a systems engineer. I spend my days surrounded by code and charts. I'm not great with words, but I show up. I try, always. I married Dana when she was 25. I was 31. At the time, I had a stable job, a small house, and an old car that struggled to start every winter morning. She was a brand new teacher, radiant, full of energy, and always laughing at my dry stories. There was this one autumn evening, when Lacey was still little. We drove out to the suburbs to look at the moon. The three of us shared a thin blanket. Our daughter lay in the middle, holding a cookie, singing off-key. Donna turned to me, rested her head on my shoulder, and whispered, "If we could just stay like this forever, that would be perfect." I didn't know it then, but that was the peak of my family. And from the top, there's only one direction left to go. Over the past year, Dana started changing. Not in any loud or obvious way, just little absences, eyes that wouldn't meet mine, cold dinners, sentences left unfinished. At first, I thought she was tired. Teaching was tough. The kids were complicated. I tried helping out more, tried not to ask questions, tried to make things easier for her. I believed if I stayed kind, stayed patient, things would come back around. But the more I tried, the wider the gap grew. She'd come home late, always some board meeting. Sometimes I'd hear laughter from the bedroom. Then the door would slam shut the moment I got close. Lacey, our daughter, changed too. She stopped telling me about school, started avoiding my eyes. Even though I hadn't done anything wrong, I didn't ask. I didn't press. I didn't make a scene. Not because I didn't see it, but because I truly believed if I didn't do anything wrong, no one would have a reason to leave me. I was wrong. I started feeling like a guest in my own home. Everything was still there. The dining table, the couch, the reading lamp. But the morning hugs were gone. No more, "Hey, you're home." No eyes really saw me anymore. One day, I came home earlier than usual. The bedroom door was half open. I heard Dana on the phone, voice low but firm. "He suspects nothing. Trust me, Spencer never notices that kind of thing." I stood outside the door for less than a minute. I didn't walk in. I didn't say a word. I just turned away, like I hadn't heard a thing. That night, I sat alone in my home office, staring at an old Excel spreadsheet. Blank cells, empty rows. They meant nothing, but at least they didn't betray me. Then, right before my birthday, the air in the house started to feel warm again. Dana asked what I wanted to eat. Lacey smiled when I mentioned my birthday. Even my mother-in-law called, sounding almost cheerful. "Don't make any plans for Friday, Spencer. Something special's coming." And I thought, Maybe I was wrong. Maybe things were going to be okay. Maybe Dana was finding her way back. I bought a bottle of the wine she liked, shaved, wore the white shirt, the one she used to say made me look a little less sad. I even placed 2 new toothbrushes in the bathroom, because in my head, I pictured the 3 of us having dinner. Dana smiling, Lacey taking pictures, and me whispering a quiet thanks to God that I didn't give up too soon. That evening, just before I left the house, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time, and I thought, I don't even remember the last time Dana hugged me, but if she just looks at me tonight, just once, the way she used to, I'd forgive everything. What I didn't know was that the table where they placed the birthday cake that night was the same table where they had already laid out the divorce papers. That evening, I drove to Riverbend, the restaurant Dana used to call our quiet little corner in a loud city. I remember the first time I brought her there. It was her birthday, 3 years into our marriage. She ordered red wine, I got the ribs. We shared a small slice of cheesecake. Warm lights, soft jazz, a corner table on the second floor overlooking the river. It felt like the world had stopped just for us. This time was the same. Same second floor, same table, but no cheesecake, no music, and no softness. The hostess led me upstairs. The door was already cracked open. I knocked lightly. No answer. I stepped inside. The table was set. In the center, a birthday cake. A single candle burned, casting soft light on familiar faces. Dana to the right, her mother to the left, Lacey at the end of the table, hands in her lap, eyes down, and across from me, a stranger in a black suit, leather briefcase beside him. No expression. I stood there for a moment, waiting for someone to say something, for someone to smile, get up, hug me, say, surprise. But no, Donna just exhaled slowly and said, Spencer, I know this is a shock, but I wanted to do this in the kindest way I could. I didn't understand. I looked around. No balloons. No friends. No Nolan, the guy I'd turned down a fishing trip with today, because I thought something beautiful was waiting here. The stranger opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. I'm Mark Talbert, legal counsel for Dana Miller. These are the finalized divorce papers. Everything's been prepared. All you need to do is read and sign. I said nothing, just stepped forward, pulled out a chair, and sat down. In front of me was the birthday cake. Frosted white letters read, Happy birthday, Spencer, to a fresh start. I stared at that message for a long time, long enough to hear the soft crackle of the candle. No one said a word. I looked over at Lacey. She didn't lift her head. She didn't cry. She didn't run to me. She just sat there, like she was waiting for the script to finish. Only one question left my mouth. When did this start? Dana answered slowly, like it was a line she'd practiced. Months ago. But I thought, your birthday was the right time. A gentle ending, so you wouldn't feel betrayed. That sentence chilled my chest. My mother-in-law chimed in, like she'd been waiting her turn. Spencer, this is what's best. For everyone. You're a reasonable man. You'll understand. I didn't argue, didn't grab the file, didn't flip the table. I just stared at the candle, burning lower. And in that moment, one thought sank in, something I'd carry with me forever. I used to think the worst pain was betrayal. But it turns out, it hurts more when someone believes you're strong enough not to be hurt. I didn't sign that night. I just looked at the papers, the way someone looks at a ticket to a place they never wanted to go. Dana didn't push. She just stayed quiet, like my signature was nothing more than a final step, a period at the end of a sentence that had already been written. I turned to Lacey. You knew. She gave a small nod. I saw her hands trembling, her thumb scratching the back of her other hand, a habit she had in 3rd grade when she got scared. I used to put her to sleep drawing stars on her palm, whispering, Daddy's here. Nothing to worry about. Now, she sat across from me like I didn't belong. Not because she hated me, but because maybe, in her heart, I'd become something too broken to save. I don't know what hurt more, that she knew and didn't tell me, or that she believed I was strong enough to go through this alone. Mister, Talbert stood up. I'll give you time to think it over, but preferably within the next 10 days. He gathered the papers, nodded like someone who just closed a deal, and walked out. I stayed. No one touched the cake. No one blew out the candle. Dana looked at her phone, typing something. My mother-in-law stood, fixed her coat, avoided my eyes. Lacey didn't move. The room grew cold, not from the air conditioning, but because deep down, I knew I had just lost something I'd spent half my life trying to hold together. I didn't drive home. I stopped by an old bar on 8th Street, sat at my usual spot, didn't order a beer, just asked for a glass of ice water. The bartender looked at me. "You all right, man?" I nodded, but my throat was tight. I opened my phone and stared at the wallpaper. The three of us, standing on the beach. Lacey's hair flying in the wind, Dana smiling, me holding the camera with one hand. I used to think that moment was real, but looking at it now, I couldn't tell who was in love, who was pretending, and who was just holding on to something already too far gone. Before heading home, I took a drive past our old neighborhood, the place Dana and I lived when we first got married. I parked in front, turned off the engine, and sat in the dark. Outside, the streetlight cast a warm glow on the old brick walls. Through the window, I could almost see myself at 31, hopeful, naive, believing that if you were kind enough, you could hold on to anything. I sat there for nearly half an hour, didn't cry, didn't call anyone, just quietly asked myself, when did I become the last one to know about my own life? I didn't go home that night, or the next day. I checked into a small motel on the north side of the city. Somewhere no one knew me, and I knew no one. The white shirt I wore on my birthday still hung in the closet, still carried a faint trace of Dana's old perfume. I never wore it again, just opened the closet sometimes, looked at it, like I was staring at a dumber version of myself. The guy who thought love could be held together, just by being kind. 3 days later, Dana called. "Can you come get your things this weekend? I won't be home. My mom will let you in." Her voice wasn't angry anymore, just cold, steady, distant. I asked, "Is there someone else?" A thin silence. Then, "It's not that simple." I exhaled. "So there is." She didn't deny it. Saturday, I went back to the house I used to call home. I brought 2 empty suitcases and a coffee thermos, like I did on so many weekend mornings before. But this time, no sound of Lacey's slippers down the hall. No Dana brewing coffee. No eyes waiting for me to sit down. My mother-in-law opened the door, didn't look at me, just said, "You've got 2 hours." I nodded. I walked into the kitchen, the one where I installed every drawer handle myself. Every drawer I pulled open, spilled memories. I opened the third one from the left, where Lacey used to hide her secret stash of chocolate. I remembered when she baked cookies for the first time, used salt instead of sugar, and we all ate them anyway, pulling faces. Dana had laughed like never before, a full, carefree laugh. That night, we laughed until we fell asleep on the couch. Next morning, I woke to find Dana hugging Lacey, and me, pushed to the edge of the sofa, still feeling like the happiest man in the world. Same kitchen now, same drawers, only me, and the ticking of the clock. I packed slowly, carefully, no tossing, no slamming, like folding up a dream, trying not to wrinkle it. I don't remember how long it took, just that when I zipped the last suitcase, I stood in the middle of the living room and turned once, not to check for forgotten things, but to say goodbye. On the shoe rack was the pair of sneakers I bought for Lacey last year. She jumped up, hugged me, and said, "Dad, you really get me." The shoes were still there, but that look in her eyes wasn't for me anymore. At the door, I ran into Lacey. She'd just gotten back from school, stopped when she saw me. I tried to smile. "I'm heading out. Study well, okay?" She nodded slightly, then walked past me, like a stranger. I wanted to hug her, to say, "I'm not mad. I just wish you'd tell me about school again." But I stayed quiet, because in that moment I knew, some doors, once closed, we no longer have the courage to knock on again. I didn't call Dana, didn't text, didn't email, but every night, I opened our old photo albums, the ones I used to organize so neatly. Family Lacey's birthdays, vacations, everyday moments. One folder was called Just a Moment, where I saved the candid shots Dana never knew I took. Her curled up reading, messy hair, oversized sweater, smiling to herself, or sneaking chocolate and pretending she didn't. I stared at them for hours, not to feel pain, but to ask myself, which moment was the beginning of the end? I started replaying everything. The night Dana came home late, the time Lacey said, "Mom says you're too cold," that picnic they all planned, but I was the only one packing. No single moment was big enough. But the cracks, they built up until the whole roof came down. And I never saw it coming. I used to think effort was enough to keep love alive. But it turns out, love doesn't depend on how hard you try. It depends on when the other person gave up. A week later, Dana texted, "Have you signed yet? If you want to talk, I can meet and explain everything." I read it, locked my screen. That night, I drove past our old house. Lights were on. Piano playing. Not Dana, not Lacey. Some new song. Some new hands. I wasn't jealous. Wasn't angry. Just cold. In the middle of July, I saw Nolan the next morning. Told him everything. He didn't interrupt. Then he asked, if she wanted to come back tomorrow, what would you do? I said, I'd hug her, but not to hold on, just to say goodbye properly. That night, I opened the divorce papers again. The sting wasn't there anymore. Just a quiet clarity. I read each page, not because I feared missing something, but because I needed to understand. Page 4, proposed processing date. I paused. Top right corner, March 7th. That birthday night, the night of the divorce, was July 22nd. But the documents had been prepared since March, which meant, while I was planning our 12th anniversary, they'd already started the process of leaving. Without telling me, I stared at that page for a long time, not out of anger, but because I realized I'd been living next to someone who was quietly stepping away, and I never even noticed. I signed. Page 1, page 2, through to page 7. No shaking hands, no teary eyes, just a heart that no longer had anything left to hold. I set the pen down, leaned back, stared at the ceiling of that tiny rented room, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel tight in my chest. I had lost a family, but maybe, just maybe, I had finally found something more important. Myself. I sent the signed divorce papers by mail, with a short note. Signed. I hope you live true to yourself. No blame, no sentiment, just the truth. A week later, I asked to transfer to a small office on the city's outskirts. No fancy suits, no tight deadlines, and no one asking about Dana. There, I was just another middle-aged man, showing up on time, eating lunch alone, saying little. And for the first time in a while, I felt lighter. Then one late August afternoon, I got a call from Jules, Dana's closest friend. Her voice sounded strange, rushed, but thick with something unspoken. "Spencer, I need to talk. Not about Dana. It's about Lacey." I stayed quiet. There are some things you can't be left in the dark about forever. We met at a small cafe in Uptown. Jules was late. Her eyes were red. She was holding a folder. "I've known since April," she said. At first, I thought it was just a fling. But then, she slid the folder across to me. Inside, emails, texts, photos. His name was Ben, a project partner of Dana's, married, with kids, in another state. But in every photo, he was there, close, comfortable. One picture stopped me cold. Dana, Ben, and Lacey. At a park, Lacey smiling wide, holding an ice cream cone, looking at Ben with a kind of ease, like she'd known him forever. My chest tightened. I stared at the photo, unblinking. Does Lacey know about all this? Jules nodded. At first, Dana told her he was just Uncle Ben, Mom's friend. Then gradually, he became the one she could lean on. Duh, I froze. And what am I, then? A father on paper only. Jules didn't answer. I looked at the photo again, and that old question came back, sharper than ever. When did she start looking at someone else? The way she used to look at me. I closed the folder. My hands shook, but my face stayed still. I used to think the worst pain was being betrayed by your partner. But no, there's something worse. Being replaced, and not even knowing until long after it happened. That night, I didn't go back to the motel. I just drove around the city, like someone searching for something he'd already lost. I passed the old ice cream shop I used to take Lacey to, the one where she once insisted on 2 scoops of vanilla, then cried from the cold. Dana had laughed that day. "Lacey really is your stubborn little copy." I used to think that was love. Now, I'm not so sure. I pulled over by the lake. The water was black, still, unbothered by a world quietly falling apart. My mind went blank. No anger, no sorrow, not even disappointment, just silence. But in that silence, that image of Lacey laughing beside Uncle Ben kept replaying. That look, it used to be mine. Now it belonged to someone else. I didn't even know when it changed hands. The next day, I sent Lacey a message. "If you're free, I'd like to see you. Just the two of us." She replied 2 hours later. "Okay." We met at a small park near her old school. Lacey wore a gray hoodie, headphones around her neck. She sat on the bench, 1 seat away. I didn't dance around it. "Dad knows you met Uncle Ben before? It's okay. I'm not mad. I just need to ask, in your heart, is there still a place for me?" She clenched her hands, eyes red, but dry. "Mom said you wouldn't understand, but I didn't know what to do. Everything happened so fast." I nodded. "No blame. No pressure. I don't need you to defend anyone. I just need to know. Are you okay?" She lowered her head, voice trembling. "I didn't forget you, but I was scared if I told you everything. You'd hate Mom, and I didn't want our family to fall apart like that." I sighed, lightly touched her hand. "I'm not angry at anyone. I'm just afraid that one day you'll think I was the one who walked away." Silence. Then Lacey whispered, barely audible, "I miss you so much, but I don't know how to hold on when everything keeps slipping away from me." I hugged her, not to pull her back, but to let her know I was still here, even if I'd been replaced, even if I wasn't the lead role anymore. That night, I washed my hands at the park sink. Cold water slid through my fingers, slowly. I looked at my hands, dry, wrinkled, tired, and I thought, I've been trying to hold on to too much, when maybe not everything was meant to be held with both hands. Back at the motel, I opened my old notebook. On the last page, I wrote one more line. "Don't try to fix what's broken. Just hold on gently to whatever's still whole, even the smallest piece." 2 weeks after my talk with Lacey, Dana called me. It was the first time since the day I signed the divorce papers. "I think we should figure out a schedule for visits and talk about finances." Her voice was calm, steady, no blame, no warmth, just finishing a contract that had been left open. I agreed to meet. A public cafe, bright, just loud enough to keep things from getting personal. Dana arrived first. Same type of dress, hair tied up, soft makeup, no red lipstick, no tears, just polish and cold distance. "Lacey's doing well. She likes him, Ben. You know that by now, right?" I nodded, eyes fixed on my coffee. "I'm not asking you to accept it. Just don't make it harder for her." I looked up, met her eyes. "I won't make it harder, but I won't stay silent. If I see her getting hurt." She hesitated. "Ben, he's genuine. With me and with Lacey." I pressed my lips together, didn't smile, didn't shake my head. "I don't care how genuine he is with you. I only care about one thing. When are you going to tell Lacey the truth?" Silence. She looked down, tracing her finger around the rim of her cup. No defense, no excuses, just quiet. I thought she needed time, to not hate me, to understand. "No one's completely right." I sighed slowly. "You're wrong. She doesn't need to know who's right. She needs to know who's brave enough to tell the truth, even when it makes them look bad." The air between us went still. She looked at me, long and hard, like trying to recognize a man she once lay beside for 12 years, but now couldn't quite place. I pulled a folder from my bag. "This is the custody agreement I drafted. No bias, no revenge, just fairness." She took it, said nothing. I stood, put on my coat, turned to leave. The wind hit hard when I opened the door. My coat slipped off my left shoulder. I didn't fix it. I kept walking, let the wind pull at me, let her watch from behind the glass. I knew I wasn't winning anything, didn't need to. I just needed to hold on to my dignity, enough for Lacey to remember her father, as a man who never looked back, but never shoved anyone into a corner either. The following weekend, I took Lacey out for dinner. We went to a pizza place she loved back in 3rd grade. It used to be loud, packed. Now, strangely quiet. She ordered the same as always, half pepperoni, half cheese. Didn't look at me much, but her eyes no longer avoided mine. I asked softly, "These past few months, how have you been?" She nodded. "I'm okay. I'm in the school play. Small role, but I like it." I smiled. "When you were little, you said you only wanted to direct. Hated being told what to do." She shrugged. "Not enough people now. So I'm doing everything." In that moment, I realized She was growing up, didn't need me the same way anymore, and that truth didn't hurt like I thought it would. It just made my chest go still. Back in the car, I reached over and buckled her seatbelt. An old habit. My hand touched hers. Now longer, thinner, not the tiny fingers that used to grip mine at the playground. I asked, "Have you ever felt like you had to pick sides between me and your mom?" She didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Yes, but I don't wanna. I just want for neither of you to make me choose who's right." I nodded, my voice lower now. "Then remember this. I don't need to be right. I just need to be here. If someday you ever need somewhere to fall back to, I'll still be there." I drove her home. Didn't go inside. Didn't need to. I stayed by the curb, watching her walk in. She turned, waved, didn't smile, but her eyes were peaceful. That night, I went back to the motel, opened my laptop, typed a short email. No subject line. "Lacey can stay with you most of the time. I won't fight that. All I ask is one day each month, just me and her. No phones, no one else. If you agree, let her choose the first day." After sending it, I opened a drawer, took out an old box. Inside, a printed photo. Me and Lacey. She was 4. Hair messy, ice cream on her lips, one arm around my neck. I reprinted the photo, laminated it, pinned it to the corner of my desk. Not to hold on to the past, but to remind myself, some things, even when time changes everything, are worth keeping intact, just through a photo corner, and a lifetime of quiet love. The next morning, I woke early, walked around the lake. The wind was still cold, the sky still gray, but my chest wasn't empty anymore. I had lost a wife, given up many things, but I still had this. Love, when it needs no conditions, no demands, no scorekeeping, just the quiet act of staying in someone's heart the most decent way you can. The following month, Lacey picked the last Sunday to spend with me. No one mentioned her mom. No one brought up Ben. We just walked around the park, bought ice cream, stopped by the library, and played Jenga. I didn't ask, "Are you having fun?" I just watched her laugh. And I knew some laughs don't need to be confirmed. That was the first time I truly felt like a father. Not because I had custody, not because we lived under the same roof, but because I was there, quiet, long enough to matter. Someone once told me, a good father isn't in every photo. He's the one quietly keeping warm the memories no one else remembers. I didn't understand that before, but I do now. When I saw Lacey stop pulling her hand away from mine, when she let me brush her hair aside after a silly joke, I no longer blamed Dana. Maybe she chose her path and walked it the best way she knew how. And I have mine. It's quiet, alone, but straight and clean. I returned to my old routine, working at the small office, reading at night, writing letters to my daughter by hand, not expecting a reply, just so she'd know. Her dad is still writing the story of his life, for her eyes only, whether she reads it or not. Last week, I got a postcard from Lacey, a messy little drawing, a man holding an umbrella over a girl in the rain. Below it, in her handwriting, "I couldn't draw your face, Dad, because I miss you so much. I can't remember it clearly, but I still remember you always held the umbrella over me first." I folded the card, slipped it into my wallet, next to the photo of us when she was 4. 2 pieces of paper, thin, small, but enough to hold every bit of warmth I've ever felt. That afternoon, I went back to our old park. The stone bench, where I once waited for Lacey, where I once said, "I'll be here if you need me," was still there. Rough, cold, empty. I didn't sit down, just stood there, for a long time, and I realized the one thing that takes time isn't forgetting. It's forgiveness, for others, and for yourself. I had lost a family, but I held on to something more important. Kindness, and the ability to show up, even when you're no longer the lead in someone's life. If anyone ever asks me, "Do you regret anything?" I won't answer. I'll just smile, like someone who's been through many storms, but still chooses to hold the umbrella out for others, instead of counting how many times he got wet. I used to think being a father meant being there every day. Now I know, sometimes just not disappearing is already a complete way to love.